Oh, sorry I'm a bit late. I was just doing washing the dishes there, you know. I really hate doing housework, don't you? It's so repetitive, isn't it? I mean, you wash the dishes, you clean the floor, you make the bed, and then 6 months later, you've got to do it all over again. Anyway, welcome to episode 4 of Why the Universe is Quite Disappointing, Really. And what I want to do in this episode is to talk a little bit about galaxies. What we're going to do in this series is to go up from small scale things like individual stars to bigger things like galaxies and then to the whole universe. So we can see the extent to which the whole thing is overrated. So I'm going to start with a little introductory video about galaxies by drawing attention to one thing that you might not have noticed. Now, everyone has seen pictures of galaxies. Galaxies usually in most people, when you mention a galaxy, most people think of a spiral galaxy, something like this. So there you have it. The universe is a very big place. It's filled with galaxies, and each galaxy is very big. It contains lots of stars, but each galaxy is also littered with the corpses of dead stars and contaminated by the waste products that those stars produce when they die. So the universe might be big, but it's also very, very dirty. That was a picture of the Andromeda Nebula, the nearest big spiral galaxy to us, sometimes called a disk galaxy because of its shape. And we actually live in a thing like this, like that. The Milky Way, we can't see it so well because we're inside it, but the Milky Way is kind of like the Andromeda Nebula in shape. And the Milky Way contains something like 100 billion stars, so it's quite big. But let's take another look at that image. Did you notice the little dark smudges that kind of mess it up a bit? Let's have a look at another galaxy. That was a picture of the galaxy M64, which is sometimes called the evil eye galaxy because of its appearance. Now, there's nothing particularly evil about it, but the one thing that its appearance does tell you is that it's very, very dirty, because what causes those dark bands that you can see in the image and in similar features in the Andromeda Nebula and most other spiral galaxies is the presence of stuff called astronomical dust. Now, astronomical dust is not like household dust. It has a consistency which is a bit more like soot or cigarette smoke, maybe small particles. And those particles are extremely good at absorbing optical light, and that's why they black out parts of the galaxy. So when you see those dark bands in the image of a spiral galaxy, you're looking at starlight being obscured by this grubby mess which is inside the galaxy. There's all this dust. Now, if we look at this image from the Hubble Space Telescope, so that image is part of what's called the Hubble Ultra Deep Field. It's an image that's taken by pointing the Hubble Space Telescope at a pretty blank piece of sky for a very long time. And what you see if you do that are objects that are so faint that they're a very long way away. And the faintest objects that we see are all galaxies. If you look at the sky long enough and hard enough, you see galaxies everywhere. The building blocks of the universe are galaxies. But we see much less of them than we'd like to because the universe is filled with dust. And a lot of the stars which we could potentially see in galaxies have their light absorbed by astronomical dust. We don't just see dust when we look at galaxies. It's basically everywhere we make astronomical observations. From our own solar system, there's stuff called zodiacal dust, which some of it at least is made from disrupted solar system bodies like comets and so on. We have dust in the interstellar medium. That's the space in between stars in our own galaxy. sort of messy junk out of which things are being recycled. And we see it in intergalactic space, and just causing the absorption of starlight from galaxies. And it's all over the place, basically. So what is it? Well, it's actually a byproduct of stellar evolution, the process by which stars get old and die. And some of the dust is produced in the outer regions of massive stars when they get old. They start evolved stars, as they're sometimes called. Those stars make heavier elements than hydrogen and helium in the outer regions, and they get a wind blows them out into the space beyond the star. And astronomers call this process enrichment, but it actually is basically pollution more than anything else. That contributes something to the dust, but actually there's a lot of dust around, and we think a lot of it was made very early in the universe in the explosion of massive, very massive stars, very violent production of dust, and that's supernovae explosions. A supernova is when a very massive star just explodes and leaves a very dense remnant, perhaps a black hole, and the outer regions of the star get blown out into space. And we think that's the cause of a lot of the initial contamination of the universe with dust and heavier elements associated with the formation of the first galaxies. So there you have it. The universe is a very big place. It's filled with galaxies, and each galaxy is very big. It contains lots of stars, but each galaxy is also littered with the corpses of dead stars and contaminated by the waste products that those stars produce when they die. So the universe might be big, but it's also very, very dirty.